Here we go. Thank you for that applause, lackluster as it was. Good morning. How are you all? I hope you're having a good time and enjoying yourself and being innovative. My name is Jason Low. I'm the CEO of TuneTalk, a mobile virtual network operator here in Malaysia, and the only mobile operator which doesn't actually rip you off. Today's topic is the rise of Asia. Someone went, oh, oh, the rise of Asia. So when I first saw this title, I was immediately struck by two things. Firstly, the rise of Asia reminded me of the movie Terminator 3, which incidentally is called the rise of the machines. So here is Western civilization witnessing the dawn of a new era of Asian machines made of mainly Chinese and Indian spare parts, come to dominate the global economy and give the West, in particular the United States, a run for its money. Although lately, perhaps, the phrase should be coined, a run from its money. That was a joke. So the second thing struck me. Where exactly is Asia rising from? Well, to rise, we must surely be in a crouching position, like a crouching tiger. Or we could be asleep. So I looked back over the last century and realized that it could have been the latter. If we were having this discussion in the 19th or 20th century, we might as well call the topic the rice of Asia, as in the nasi of Asia. But prior to the 19th century and over the history of the world, China and India were dominant economies, trading spices, precious metals, teaching astronomy and calligraphy with entire libraries dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge long before Columbus even set foot in the Americas and brought devastating flu to the native population, killing most of them off. Long before the Europeans were complaining about taxes because they were still living in caves, unaware that eventually European football will transform their lives one day and give them something else to complain about. Yes, Asia was where it was at. We were the biggest party in town from 1 AD for the next 1,800 years, growing, innovating, inventing everything from gunpowder to char kway teow. Then, only 2 centuries ago, something happened. A perfect climate of socio-political complacency, a couple of wars here and there, some random buffoons in charge of certain countries, which I shall not name, and a gradual change in our equivalent of a global corporate culture. It was like a spell had been cast to send China and India to sleep. Like Snow White, they went to sleep, and the rest of us, the 7 dwarfs, followed suit in their shadow. Asia was asleep. Asia was no longer the life of the party. How could this be fixed? Well, we went about fixing it. Did we have a kind of an Asian history of a world midlife crisis? I think we did. I think we went out and got ourselves a Ferrari. Asia got itself a Ferrari, and the Ferrari is called free market economics. And we wanted it. Now we have it. And not only did we rise with this new Ferrari, free market economics, but some might argue we rose, got in our car, and now on a joyride exceeding the speed limit, consuming far too much fuel, and we're not entirely sure of where we're headed. So to help us gaze into this crystal ball here are 4 very distinguished speakers. Firstly, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Tan Sri Rafida Aziz. Tan Sri is also known as the Iron Lady of Malaysia, our very own Iron Lady. That doesn't mean that she's endorsed by Marvel in any way, nor will she appear in any of the Avengers movies. Tan Sri, thank you for joining us today. She needs no introduction. I should give her no introduction other than being the former Minister of International Trade and Industry. I would also like to introduce Dr. Teguh Raharjo from Indonesia. Previously, he was the former Deputy Minister for S&T, Relativity and Productivity of the Ministry of Research and Technology. So yes, he is Indonesian. Next, one of the most innovative companies that you all know in Malaysia because its logo is on all your fans. Yeah, for the last, I think, 50 years. Please welcome Mr. Rahul Gupta from GE. He's responsible for the inorganic and strategic organic initiatives across the portfolio of the GE business. And I'm sure he'll explain to us the difference between inorganic and organic strategic initiatives. They got me in the middle. Lastly, I would like to introduce Dr. Bruno Lanvin. He's French. Bonjour, ça va, Mr. Lanvin? He's the Executive Director of INSEAD's European Competitiveness Initiative, or ICI. I like that one, ICI. Someone got it in the front. He manages INSEAD's teams in Paris. Prior to that, he was working with the World Bank. So there's a lot of macro, micro available today. I would like to kick this discussion off, Tan Sri and gentlemen, if I may sit down now. Oh, you want me to stand up? I'll stand up, yes. Yes, Tan Sri. Oh, sorry, Tan Sri. Yes, Tan Sri, whatever you say, Tan Sri. Panas ini, panas. Tan Sri, if I may, I would just, and gentlemen, I will ask you all a broad question so that you may begin your discussion. We'll have roughly 10 to 15 minutes per speaker, and then we'll open the floor to questions. In your distinguished and long careers, what are some of the changes you have seen over the years with regard to Asia's rise, our innovation? Have we increased innovation throughout the years? What are some of the examples you are most proud of? Is there a set of government policies we'd like to throw into the mix to encourage innovation and R&D? I was giving a talk at the local university last week, and a student asked me, a student told me he was studying innovation. Can innovation be learned or taught, or is it a cultural or environmental play? Tan Sri Afidazis.
Thank you very much, Jason. Panel members, ladies and gentlemen. Well, when you talk about the rise of Asia, you're right, Jason. It's about rising from a position where we were either dormant or apathetic to what's happening globally. I would say that we were a bit dormant in the past. But let's talk about Asia now and Asia for the future. And in that context, I would like just to focus on, first of all, the macro side of the rise of Asia, and see later on how innovation comes in, all within that prescribed 15 minutes. To me, the rise of Asia must be focused on from the economic standpoint. And I see that the rise of Asia has been due to several factors, or spurred by several factors. One is the economic liberalization and the ongoing economic liberalization and market opening of China and India. I think much has been written about this. There's no doubt this is one big booster to the rise of Asia. And secondly, the emerging markets in Asia, the emerging economies in Asia, as exemplified by ASEAN, has gone into the regional integration mode, with ASEAN evolving hopefully into ASEAN Economic Community by 2015, and then the ASEAN Plus and ASEAN Plus Plus initiatives, which in the context of ASEAN Plus Plus brings into the group of China, India, Korea, as well as New Zealand and Australia. Now, in other words, ASEAN as a driver's seat is now reaching out to the neighbors in Asia in order to make regional integration, economically speaking, work, not only for the individual countries, but for the region as a whole. And I think this is what has helped to spur that context of rise of Asia. And lately, the emerging economies of Central Asia, let's not forget, Kazakhstan and so on, that's Asia too. And of course, when you talk about these developments, there is now this perceived, and I think it is not just perceived, it is happening, the shift of the global economic axis to the Asia-Pacific alignment. And people keep talking about the century of Asia and so on. But what's important is that these developments have actually focused global attention to what Asia can offer. One, as a very big market for people interested to exploit it. And secondly, Asia, within Asia, there are areas that could be competitive production bases for companies like GE and so on to operate from, not just to serve the Asia region, but the global economy and global market at large. So this is what's happening now that has brought about that rise of Asia. And talking about the economic integration, much has been commented about it. Suffice to say, there is this awareness in the region of Asia, and Asia meaning ASEAN plus plus so far, that if you work collectively, you integrate, you put in the infrastructures, physical and non-physical, and you put into a place the connectivities, whether in terms of air connectivities, telecommunications, so on, you'll be able to exploit optimally the potential of Asia, what I would call the Asian dynamism, Asian economic dynamism. Now, and this has, to me, as long as these countries are doing this, then there'll be some sustaining of that rise momentum for Asia. But the next thing is to ask the question, will this momentum continue to rise if Asia keeps doing the same things? What are the constraints? What are the blocks in the future that would stifle this continued ascendancy of Asia? And what are the issues that the whole region will have to grapple with? First of all, we have to see that Asia is not a homogeneous entity. Asia cannot be spoken as one group that's homogeneous, that's uniform, and so on. It's not even a seamless market. It's not even a borderless entity. But nevertheless, there is some collective awareness in Asia that the world is focusing attention on us, so therefore you must continue to put into place the various ecosystems at both national levels and regional levels that can, first of all, attract foreign direct investments, capital inflows, secondly, to attract people to come to Asia and benefit from the Asian dynamism, at the same time allow the whole region to get the economic spin-offs. So this awareness, I think, will help to sustain that ascendancy of Asia for the future. But then again, that is not enough, because bearing in mind our past history, to me, there are certain things that need to be considered by the Asian governments. I mean, I heard about these politicians and so on. Well, we put our fate in the hands of politicians. I mean, Malaysians did put their fate in my hands to some extent in the past. I tried to do my best. But you talk about politicians, focus on the good ones. You continue to focus on the bad politicians and, you know, everybody wants to run the government. But continue to focus on the good governments, the good politicians. I'm talking about the good ones. You must have in Asia, in every individual economy, political stability. I mean, talking about good government without the essence of political stability is useless. Asia will collapse in no time. So individual countries in Asia, economies in Asia, must subscribe to long-term political stability. And we see now that coming, in some places a bit slowly. And to complement that political stability that must be there, you have to have sound economic governance. Because whatever you talk about, innovation, creativity, blah, 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 it won't happen unless there is sound good governance that focuses on growth and development, that focuses on the ecosystems that you need to build up to foster growth and development. And within the ecosystem are very important elements. It's about efficiency, about productivity, and of course, very importantly, innovation. For example, Malaysia, we are now at the transition stage between the efficiency-driven and innovation-driven stage of development. As we move towards developed nation status, we cannot just talk about being efficient in Malaysia or being productive in Malaysia. That's almost passé. It's understood. It's a given, rather. But we have to now talk about innovation, because once you are a developed country, it is the innovation factor that will drive the country forward. And unless we give adequate focus on that, or the government of Malaysia gives adequate focus on that, we will not be able to sustain that momentum towards developed economic status. And even if we have reached it in 2020, to then sustain that momentum beyond 2020. So that's about Malaysia. So the rest of Asian countries also aspiring to go up the levels of development. So for them, they will arrive at that stage that Malaysia is in now, not too long after this. So in the context of the future, in the rise of Asia, the future ascendancy of Asia, there must be good political governance with good and sound economic governance, which will put into place those ecosystems. And it is also very important that the continued economic governance focuses on having strong economic fundamentals that can attract people to come into these countries in Asia to exploit the economic potential. And of course, you have the necessary policies and measures in Asia to prevent any social distortions and social dislocations, that focuses on minimizing economic and social inequities. Because in Asia, just like in Malaysia, economic and social inequities is something that has to be tackled. Otherwise, the generation of the future will not be able to be cohesive enough to carry that momentum of the country forward. So the governance is not just about economic growth and development, but also distribution. And this must happen everywhere in all the Asian countries. Sometimes in the push for growth, you forget that there must be also the distributive policies to complement that growth policy. And ladies and gentlemen, to me there's one very, very important factor in Asia that needed to be addressed by all governments. And that is one, the demography dynamics. In some countries of Asia, like in Japan, it's an aging population. That's a problem in aging population. But in most of the other countries, if not all, it is a question of the preponderance of the young in the population. And this is where the future ascendancy of Asia will be dependent upon. Because the young of today, in a few years' time, will need to be equipped with the right tools for them to move our economies forward. And this is where today the governments of all countries in Asia must focus on equipping the young with the tools. And most of these young, whether they are highly educated or not, are to some extent already IT savvy. So to me, it's a little bit easier to create the innovative culture amongst our young of today in Asia, because they already have access to the tools and they are familiar with what ICT, for example, can do for them. Except that if they focus only on social media, there's not much innovation there. But if you use ICT for creativity and innovation, which can lead later on to their being creative and innovative in public and private sectors, then you'll be able to make sure Asia really has its place as a global focus for the future. And because the demographic structure of Asian countries, apart from Japan, are the preponderance of the young, governments of today must make sure that the inculcation of the innovation culture is done right from the very young primary schools and so on. This is not something I think that can happen by a few courses. You go for a course of innovation, there's no such thing. It has to come from the reality that there are things you can do to change. It's not about creating anew. It's about making changes, transformation for the better. And to me, having this creativity for making positive changes in public sector, private sector, in technology, in processes, in the way you do business. I mean, it's no point for the private sector to be highly innovative technologically, but you have a public service, so to speak, that is totally uninnovative. They still follow the same old way of making decisions, the same old way of delays, same bureaucratic red tapes is being applied. What's the point? Because that will then hamper, negate the results of the innovation in the private sector, which depends on, to a great extent, some decisions to be made by the public sector. So innovation, please move away from the word technology. Innovation has got to do with processes, not just on the factory floor, but it is processes of decision-making, processes of procedures, legalities, and so on. That's what, to me, innovation is about. And we have to leave that for the young of today to do. Not yet up.
I'm glad when you say young, you point at me. Thank you, Tan Sri.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And so, to me, the three, to sum up, one, to continue the rise of Asia, we need governments to be politically stable, to have good economic governance, and to focus on these demographic dynamics, especially that of the young, because that's where all the innovation is going to appear from. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you very much. Hidup BN. Next, we'd like to get an Indonesian perspective and call upon Dr. Teguh Rajo, who is the Senior Advisor to the Minister of Research and Technology for Defense and Security Technology since April 2013. Dr. Teguh, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I would like to start with the one question. Probably any of you who using the iPad produced by Samsung. Did we imagine that 10 years ago, Samsung will become a leader in the iPad industry? I think we not imagine that. And yeah, talking about the rising of Asia, there is some fact that we can reverse. One is China now is de facto world leader on high technology trade with the rest of Asia, about to exceed the United States. Asia produces more than half of all high-tech goods export worldwide, while US and Europe produce each 15%. And the others, if we see with the Asian markets, mobile subscribers in China are now using 330 million smartphones. This is very big. And it will have 500 million smartphones in use by the end of 2013. This market trend will drive new patterns on offline and offline commerce that will have global consequences. And while in the field of the mobile carriers, China Unicom, China Telecom, Indonesia Telkomsel, India ID Cellular, also gradually displacing normally dominant Western operator. And the other example is in the global smart TV, Samsung holds the largest market share, about 26%, while LG 16%, and Sony is in the third, about 11%. So this is just some example. There are many industry, Asia industry, become leaders in the world. But because I came from the government, I would like to focus on the perspective of government's policy. First, if we take a look from the macroeconomy, the Asia economy growth continue at respectable rate and higher than the average of other regions in the world. For example, Southeast Asia grow at the average annual rate 5.4% over some three decades. This is only exceeded by the East Asia. In this case, is China and Korea act major engine of growth, and South Asia, India, with 6.1%. And also the recent GDP of Southeast Asia region is five times than that in 1980, while the GDP per capita has grown annually by 2.9%. So that's so that the Asia economy now growing with the respectable rates. And also the prediction of the Goldman Sachs in 2007, they predict that the emerging economy will grow rapidly over the next 40 years. And China GDP will surpass Japan in 2010 and US in the second half of 2020s. So China will become the world's largest economy by 2030. India GDP is projected to overtake Japan before 2030 and may catch up with US in around 2050. This is the prediction from Goldman Sachs. Now, despite the economy of Asia growing in the high levels, but if we take a look portrait of the technology capability, we have to worry about that. First, let's see about the input. R&D expenditures in the percentage of GDP, most of the US, AU, they put about more than 2%. This is based on the World Bank data in 2009, 2010. While ASEAN, only Singapore that put 2.4%, but the other country only invest about 0.5% of GDP. China
companies need to go into deeper waters, subsea, so on and so forth. What does that do? It basically means what you were doing onshore, now you do offshore in much harder, tougher climates and other conditions. So your traditional equipment is not going to work in those scenarios. So you need to innovate and come out with technologies that's going to work there. And that's where you kind of co-create with your customers and partners, because you're, as companies, you're helping to solve the needs of those customers. So again, what I'd like to sort of leave the group with is saying, you know, we need to sort of, the simplicity in innovation really lies in looking at trends, looking at needs, and developing products, services, and business models around it, and of course, creating an ecosystem around it. One of the things that Tan Sri mentioned is clearly the favorable demographics for in this region, which is going to foster innovation. Because if you look at the big skew of the population towards, you know, people who are 30 and under, now those are the ones who are far more innovative. I mean, the innovative ideas come from those people, and, you know, the younger you are, the more creative you are, the more fertile your imagination is, and today people are wired and connected, and they understand what's happening globally, irrespective that may be. So that's going to be something that is really going to push, I guess, the pace of Asia, as well as innovation, which is going to lead to the growth of Asia going forward. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul Gupta from GE. And now I move swiftly along to Dr. Bruno Lavant. He is the Executive Director of INSEAD's European Competitiveness Initiative, or ICI, and also advises a number of global companies and governments, is a member of numerous boards, and is going to enlighten us with the closing discussion today.
Thank you very much, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody. In his introduction, Jason mentioned one of my favorite people, Christopher Columbus. And one of the reasons why I like Christopher Columbus is that he was the first ever in my profession. He was the first economist ever. And why was Christopher Columbus the first economist ever? Because when he left, he had no idea where he was going. When he arrived, he was not at all where he thought he was, and all of that on public funds. So we have a few things to learn from Columbus, who was an innovator. So in the next 10-15 minutes, I will say a few words about INSEAD, about the rise of Asia, about the role of innovation in keeping Asia at the top, and why I believe that Malaysia has the power to become a world leader in innovation. INSEAD is a business school. It is the biggest business school in the world. We produce about 1,100 MBAs per year. The number 2 is Harvard with 1,000. And the reason why I mention INSEAD is not to advertise for my employer, but because something very interesting happened to INSEAD about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we elected our new dean. INSEAD calls itself the business school of the world. It has campuses in France, in Singapore, and in Abu Dhabi. And for the first time ever, the dean of INSEAD will be based in Asia. The dean of INSEAD has chosen to have his office in Singapore and not in Paris. I think this is a telling example that shows what we mean by the rise of Asia. It's not just the rise of Asia in terms of growth, in terms of population, in terms of demography. I will come back to that. It is the rise of Asia as a hub for knowledge. as a place where the world expects to see not only things happening, but things shaping the rest of the world. That, for me, is one of the trademarks of the rise of Asia. Just to put things in perspective, and again, we heard it before, so I'm going to be short on that. Asia is not an homogeneous region. It is one of the most, if not the most diverse region in the world. In terms of size, the countries cannot be compared in terms of population, in terms of pace of development. Think that on one hand you have massive countries and demographies like China, India, Indonesia, and you have countries like Brunei, Darussalam on the other side. So there's a wide range of demographies, geographies, and paths to growth. But what unites Asia, very much so, and it has been the case for the last 20 years, is growth. This has been the fastest growing region in the world. It has been the engine of world growth for the past 2 decades. When I hear discussion in Malaysia about whether we're going to go from 5% to 4% of growth and how much a problem that is, think of the debates that are happening in my own country, in France, where the parliament is debating whether the growth rate is going to be 0.4% or 0.5%. Okay? That's the order of magnitude we're looking at when we look at different regions of the world. However, rising is one thing, but staying on top is another thing. And a sustainable rise, remaining a tiger among the jungle of global competition, is indeed a massive challenge. And it is a daily challenge. And this is where innovation comes in. Innovation is the way to make the rise sustained and to make the ability to stay on top a reasonable ambition. I need not insist too much on the report we publish every year, which is the Global Innovation Index, because the Malaysian Minister of Technology and the Prime Minister both refer to it extensively in their respective speeches. What we try to do every year is to quantify the unquantifiable. We try to see who is performing better in terms of innovation. And why do I say this is difficult to quantify or even unquantifiable? The reason is that it's relatively easy to look at the number of patents and licenses and how much exports you're making in the IT field, for instance. But our message, and again, this has been mentioned by several of the other panelists already, is that when you want to look at innovation, you have to look beyond technology. Technology is very important of innovation, but innovation has to do with business models, it has to do with social innovation, it has to do with political and policy innovation, and it has to do with creativity. So this ability to think IT, but to move beyond IT, is critical to the success of the champions of innovation. In this year's ranking, 2013, we still see 8 European countries in the top 10. This may sound like a paradox. I mentioned before the deep crisis, and Goran Persson mentioned it this morning also, the deep crisis, the serious problems that Europe is currently facing. How come that we can still have 8 European countries in the top 10 innovators in the world? Well, this is a lesson about rising and staying at the top. Europe has no choice. Europe has to get away from the ditch. Europe has to reinvent its growth, to recreate jobs, especially for the young. 26 million people out of 350 million people in Europe are unemployed. In countries like Greece or Spain, the rate of unemployment for people below 25 years of age, the young people, the power of the future, the rate of unemployment is 52%. Imagine being less than 25-year-old and thinking that you have one chance out of 2 not to find a job. This is the kind of prospect Europe is facing, and is where innovation is absolutely key. In emerging countries, innovation is also a challenge, but for different reasons. It's a challenge because it is the way to maintain high growth. It is a way to move beyond IT and to translate innovation into increased levels of quality of life, into an environment in which not only Asian people will feel that they like to live, but other people from other parts of the world will also like to live and work. So this is an index which makes the buzz for two reasons. First, because media, as Jason knows, loves rankings and loves to say, oh, this country is on top, this country is not on top. And second, because what creates the buzz is always regional differences. And I will not quote any Asian countries here, but I can tell you that when these rankings come out, France looks, of course, where France is, but they immediately look at where is Germany, okay? Where is Italy, where is Spain, where is Belgium? The neighbors come first, and this is where the controversy starts. It's about what the neighbors do. And in this case, if we look at Asia as a region, we see that not only Asia is doing well on the front of innovation, Singapore having been one of the champions of innovation for many years, but Malaysia ranks #1 in the world in its income group. That is, for what we call upper middle income countries, Malaysia ranks on top. So it means that what has happened in this country is becoming an example not only in the region but also for other parts of the world. What is key, and why do I think that Malaysia indeed has lots of reasons to ambition to stay on top? What is key in innovation? Obviously, having the right structures, the right financing, people ready to take risks is critically important. Silicon Valley is the example of what happens when the right ecosystem and environment is created. But if I have to choose one key element that makes the success of innovation, I would say talent. Talent, human beings, personalities, is really what makes the difference in innovation. There are 5 elements under talent that require immediate attention, and this will be my last point. Those 5 elements are #1, how do you train innovators? And the idea is not how do you train innovators at the very top when they come to INSEAD or to higher levels of education, but how do you train innovators, how do you create the right mindset from primary school through secondary school and then to tertiary education. If innovation is a mindset, it is something that needs to be created at a very, very young age. #2, gender. Roughly 50% of the planet's population is female, and the other half pretends to be male. We cannot neglect 50% of the population. We still have a lot to do around gender policies, especially in innovation-related fields. And again, I'll be quoting some European figures. In Europe, girls do better than boys in scientific studies. From primary school to secondary schools to tertiary school, they do better. And then you look at engineering school, and the proportion of girls is significantly lower than the proportion of boys, which means that somehow we are losing a resource. There are many reasons for that. One of them is the perception of the glass ceiling, that girls in Europe believe that even if they are very gifted for science and technology, if they engage in IT careers, in technology careers, they will hit a glass ceiling, this is a boys' club, and they will be punished for it. And the sadness is that most of the time they are right. So we have a lot to do from the business point of view, from the government point of view, from a societal point of view, in all parts of the world, to engage women in innovative careers. The third one is that innovation is about youth. An innovator is first and foremost a person who is young in their head. If we don't allow creativity to spur, especially in the younger strata of our population, we are not fostering innovation. We have to look at how young people, younger generations communicate. I teach a course on social media, and I generally start the course by saying, who used email this morning? And then there are hands raised. And I say, well, whoever raised their hands is probably older than 25. Okay? Younger people don't use email. They use other ways of communicating. We have to think about this, about multitasking, about doing things differently, and give a chance to those who can create through social media, through other tools, an opportunity to do so. By the way, one of the lessons we learned from GII is in the area of youth-based creativity, which we measure through uploads to YouTube, etc. Malaysia ranks first. Malaysia ranks ahead of Singapore in creativity from the younger generation. So congratulations to the young people from Malaysia who are in this room. You are making it. The fourth element is about culture. And culture, of course, is a very delicate and very sensitive issue. Every culture has something to bring to innovation. Every culture has a different way to deal with innovation, and all are respectable. However, and again, because I'm going to say something negative, let me say it about Europe. And I will let you infer whether it applies to Asia or not. But in Europe, we have a big disadvantage compared to the US. We have no respect for failure. If you want to create a new company, a startup in Europe, you have to open a bank account. Fair enough. But the first piece of paper you sign in my country, in France, when you want to open a bank account, is I hereby swear on my honor that I have never been bankrupt. Okay? Think of what it means. It means that you go bankrupt with one company, forget about creating a second one. You have to do it through a straw man or under your wife's name or your children's name, which is totally illogical. As opposed to Silicon Valley, where, you know, I've failed 7 companies, I failed 8 companies, the 9th one is going to be the best one, you have a chance to join me, you can convince bankers. It's almost a badge of honor. So learning from failure, being allowed to fail, is critically important to the success of innovation. You should not care too much about losing face. Woody Allen is one of my favorite thinkers about innovation because he said, if you don't fail from time to time, you're probably not doing something very innovative. So we can be innovative in many ways. And last but not least, what is the 5th element? And the one which I believe is a strong advantage for a country like Malaysia. It is openness. Open innovation. Open your doors, open your windows, open your brains and your minds, and you will become more innovative. A country which has the strong, incredible advantage of having people coming from different cultures, different ethnicities, having different religions, working and living together has a tremendous advantage on the field of innovation. Managing multicultural, multidisciplinary teams, very often in a virtual fashion, is the way innovation is going to be carried in the future. So for all these reasons, I believe that the rise of Asia is only starting, that Asia has many ways of staying on top, and I do expect that we're going to see spectacular things coming from Malaysia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bruno Lavant, for giving us that insight to how Malaysia is going to fare in the future. I, for one, am very proud being a Malaysian myself. Although we do have a similar system that you have in France here, where you have to get certain things, you have to get someone else to be your proxy for a certain... anyway, I won't go there. They know what I'm talking about. We'd like to invite the audience to participate now and open up the floor to questions. If you have any questions, please tell us your name and which organization you're from. Are we going, before I continue further, we're going to attempt something innovative. Is that right? Please do log in to WIF-KL 2013 mobile apps. And I'll invite you to participate. Are we going to do this, or? I like the way nobody's looking at me. They're like, use the application. They said use the application. I said I'm sure it won't work. Hello? The organizers are very quiet. There we go. Thank you very much. The Wi-Fi ID is WIF-KL 2013. The password is ABCD1234. This, of course, is high security here in Malaysia. And then you can ask your questions. And we should see the questions pop up on screen. Is that right? Yes? Malaysia boleh? Malaysia boleh tak? Bisa. Bisa Pak. Okay, we'll open the floor to questions. I think we had a hand raised by a gentleman over there. Where were you? Where have you gone? We have one here. Okay. If you can state your name and your organization and direct a question to one of the panelists or all of them.
Hello. I'm all the way from Bangladesh. My name is Tahmidul Bari. I have a question that if we divide Asia to certain groups, that we see that they're developed portion, and we have some developing portion like Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. In terms of innovation, what types of mutual collaboration in terms of culture or respect or economy, what types of collaboration or contribution can the developed part can do to the developing part, and how could it help as a collaborate part of the rising of Asia? I want to ask to the speakers. Thanks.
Thank you for your question. I think what he's asking is developed nations versus underdeveloped nations. What kind of collaboration do you? Tan Sri, I think Tan Sri is here.
To me, that can happen in the context of the greater regional integration of the Asian countries. Now, for example, Bangladesh is part and parcel of the subcontinent, in Indian subcontinent. And within there, you have India that can be a prime mover of assisting Bangladesh through regional economic collaboration that focuses on, for example, developing the talent of the young towards innovative creating innovative culture, and helping businesses in Bangladesh to be more creative and innovative to compete, not only the regional market, but also globally. And Bangladesh on its own, like Malaysia on its own, may not be able to do it, but we've had benefits of these regional processes that helps us to enhance our capacity to do our own internal innovation. So perhaps the government of Bangladesh would seek this pragmatic collaborative efforts with its neighbor in Asia to push this forward. And I would like to say, move from what Ms. Lamba has talked about just now, about the young. This is something very serious because, and you're all young here. I think I may be the oldest in this company here. But it is so important that all of you young people move away from that context of innovation equals technology, because to me, innovation comes at 3 levels. 1, government or public sector. 2, private sector, which is business and industry. And thirdly, civil society. We're talking about innovation culture. And as I've said earlier, and also mentioned by Ms. Lava, if you start from young to be creative and innovative, eventually you'll be able to see things that need change. You'll be asking yourself, we have to innovate. And if somebody asks you why you innovate, you can explain. If it's in industry, it's because you want to be more competitive, realize your bottom line targets, or sales targets, market leadership. For government, it is efficiency. And you see what the point I made just now about government being innovative is that Mr. Lama has talked about this, setting up a new company in France. When you're honored, it's not a bankrupt. That bureaucracy will have to change, innovate, make that way obsolete. Because sometimes government processes actually inhibit the realization of what creativity innovation has come up with. And I think it is so important that you see it at public sector level, private sector level, and civil society at large. To me, unless you see this innovation culture pervasive industry levels, it's not easy for any country to be there on top. Thank you.
Dr. Lama, would you like to comment on the question?
Yeah, I can be very quick because Tan Sri insisted on the very core point. I would just like to add in the specific case of Bangladesh, as for many other countries, that it is always easier to create change on the basis of success. That is, it's very important to engage people to make them look forward to the change. And in many countries, public sector innovation is an oxymoron. There are strong resistances to change, and very often for good reasons. People say, oh, you cannot be innovative with public money, you cannot take risk, you're responsible. So you have to break the mold, you have to change the mindset. Bangladesh, for instance, is, after all, the country where Grameen Bank and Grameen Phone were created. I happen to be a member of the Broadband Commission with Mohamed Yunus, and it's incredible to hear him speak about everything which seems to be happening every day in Bangladesh. Young people doing this, and this group of women in that village doing that, etc. So it's just to build, to bring that to the fore, to build from success, and make people feel eager about even more innovation. And I think the question also mentioned another very important area, which is regional cooperation. It would be an illusion, it would be dangerous to think that tomorrow Bangladesh is going to create a new Harvard Business School that will actually train all the people you need to become innovators and business leaders, etc. But it's also equally dangerous to think that everybody in Bangladesh will need to be trained in the US or in Europe. Asia is a place where cooperation among ASEAN countries in particular can create a hub. Finland is known for creating a group around AALTO, A-A-L-T-O, where they put together the top engineering school, the top business school, and the top design school. So they have artists, business people, and engineers working together and getting degrees together. And this has created an elite of people who get the highest pays across all people in Europe. This can be created in Asia. You can very well have an institution in Malaysia, another one in Singapore, another one in Thailand or somewhere else, working together, giving a joint training that will create these innovators who have different cultures.
Thank you. Can we have another question from the floor? Yes.
My name is Teresia Nyawira from Kenya in Africa. And as you talk about the rise of Asia, I don't know what we'll talk about in Africa. I work for an institution called the National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation, an institution that is supposed to advise the government on matters science, technology, innovation. And I'm seated here, I would want to learn what exactly are we not doing right in Africa. When you talk about the global index, as far as innovations are concerned, we are not doing very well. I think my country is number 92. And I would want really to ask, what exactly are we not doing? I know we are pumping money into innovations, into such processes, but still, when it comes to ranking, we are still, quite behind. I would want to be told what exactly would we do so that we move up. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Would anybody like to take this? Doctor?
Thank you very much. Indeed, the session is about the rise of Asia, but if we have to look at what is the region of the world where the growth differentials are expected to be the most spectacularly different in the next 10 years, Africa comes on top. Africa will be the fastest growing in terms of demography. Country, I don't have on the top of my head the figures for Kenya, but I was just writing a piece, a blog on Nigeria this morning. The population of Nigeria will be 450 million by 2050, and right now, more than 50% of the population is less than 18. So this is where the power of Africa is. It's in the dynamism of its demography. Now, what is it that Africa is not doing right? I think Africa right now is doing a lot of things right. It also has to solve two issues. One of them is to get out of the historical patterns that have hampered its development. So better government, more market-oriented solution are part of what needs to be done. And of course, there are still very bloody internal conflicts, especially in the lake regions, which are an obstacle to the growth of the continent. We are producing, and I'm revealing a secret here, but on 26 November, we'll be launching our third and last major global index, which should be the Global Talent Index. We look at how countries around the world grow talent, attract talent, and retain talent. And as far as Africa is concerned, I can reveal that two countries come shining, and they are Botswana and South Africa. And why do these two countries come out shining? One of the reasons is the presence of female parliamentarians and the importance of female technicians and engineers in the labor force. If this can be an indication for the rest of Africa and the rest of the world, it is indeed something worth mentioning. And because we are talking about Kenya, I think one thing that the world has learned for Kenya is that you can run very fast and for a very long time. So it's not just about sprinting, it's about keeping the speed for as long as you can.
It's a shame to find that that will be the last edition of the talent. I'll pick it up since it's the last one. Might be a collector's item. Any more questions from the floor? Yes, sir, from the left side. Sorry. I think his hand was faster than yours a bit, but I'll remember you. We'll try to conclude by 1 p.m. for lunch, I think.
No mic on the top.
Sorry.
Okay, I'd like to focus on the word chronism, because in innovation, some people are given rewards, special rewards in order to come up with some innovative.
What chronism?
And it can be anything, it can be in terms of government chronism or certain rewards, for certain things, Like some people say, oh, I can start a team for you, but as long as you come up with your innovative ideas, It's like a rewards base, I give you some kickback, you come up with some ideas and start the project off, It's like you reward certain things to certain people first before they come up with their own ideas. So this makes the whole ideas of innovation or ideation becomes lacking, So there'll be a lackluster of people or the young youths, Today we're coming up, or they say all the Gen Ys will be coming up with the S11 or money, money comes first before we want to innovate things for you, So how do you perceive this, in the long run?
Tan Sri, would you like to comment on this?
Well, obviously some people feel that incentive should be money, but that's why I say because there's a lack of innovative culture, people have to be moved by money, it seems, to innovate. That is not right, actually. To me, the real innovative spirit comes from people who, even without any dollar sign in front of them, will do something to change something, transform something, because there's going to be an improvement in whatever it is, whether public, private sector, or in society at large. Now, that's what I mean by innovation. That kind of thing is not innovation. That's just come up with an idea. That's not innovation. It's like asking my grandchildren, come up with an idea how to do this, and they'll come up with some creative ideas. And then I say, okay, here you are. That's not it. Creativity doesn't have to be pushed, or innovation doesn't have to be pushed by money. But having said that, if it is something that's going to really radically transform something essential to the country, and that requires some funding, genuine funding, well, the government must come on board. If a company, for example, is something really radical in terms of innovation that's been done, R&D has been done, and they need this push to make sure the product becomes a reality, the process becomes a reality, or whatever it is becomes a reality. The government should come in. Don't ask them to go to the banks. Banks normally don't see this innovation as something that they must, help to fund. It may be the best thing that can happen for the country, but in the banks will say, where's your collateral? His collateral is here. Innovation is here, isn't it? It's about brains, about what you're thinking. You may have it sketched on paper, and no bank is going to give you a loan on that. So for that purpose, the public sector must come in, the government come in. But not to say, think up of a project and then I'll give you something. I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that.
I think the gentleman is probably looking for...
And just answering that question from a private sector perspective, I mean, creativity is not just about coming out with some random ideas. I think the point is, what are you trying to solve, what are you trying to prove, and what does it do, and how do you commercialize it? So for example, in our company, I mean, we invest in new ideas. Some of them work, some of them fail. And we'd also, as an organization, we're always learning from that process. Not to say that we're great, we're always learning. But the point is that the debates always happen around the fundamental premise. What are you trying to achieve by doing this? And I think whether you call it the problem statement, that has to be very clearly crafted and communicated before it really goes into the realm of funding, etc. Because funding is a byproduct and it's a means to an end. But firstly, the idea has to be something which is meaningful and must solve for something.
I think the gentleman was probably looking for an innovative way to eradicate cronyism. And I kind of share his frustration because this appears to be a trait especially in developing countries such as Malaysia and in Indonesia as well. Cronyism is quite extensive. Everywhere, Tan Sri, of course. Dr. Teguh, do you find that Indonesia has taken the right steps to create an environment to eradicate this kind of behavior, cronyism?
Yes, I think the reward is one of the important instruments from the government perspective. But when I learned about the Silicon Valley, one that impressed me is reward to the loser. So sometimes we punish them that they are failed. But actually, there is a process. They're just beginning. So if we give chance to them, we create the environments, then there's reward. Reward doesn't mean only the money, but it can be also to support them in all of the aspects that they can then build again their talents. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, gentleman here.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Muhammad Farhan bin Khairuddin. I'm fresh graduate from University Malaysia Terengganu. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Okay.
Tak apa, relax bro.
Okay. Actually, I am a young innovator. I have two prototypes of myself. I have one is anti-snatch bag for rugged problem, and another one is a carpet, automatic carpet for to remove odor. So I have a problem here. My problem is I have an idea. I have a prototype. I already test the prototype and it's work. 8 out of 10 person that I test on says they want that product. But the problem is how I'm going to reach government to help me to create it, to commercialize it.
Well, you got GE right here. I think perhaps, Rahul, would you be interested in anti-odor carpet for GE?
You know, firstly, you shouldn't be nervous, you know. When you say you're young and you're an entrepreneur and you ask a question, we get nervous.
Can I answer that? Yeah?
Yes.
I mean, when you said you asked 10 people, how many people did you ask they would like the product?
8 out of 10. I tested at Mid Valley Mega Mall.
Oh, how many people did you test? I mean, sorry to...
So they were all Chinese?
You see why?
Okay.
That kind of random sampling with such a small need doesn't make a market for your product. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You know, a market of a product cannot begin with 8 out of 10 people that you interview. It happened to be 10 people. So, and like anti-snatch bag. First of all, afterwards you go and have these pamphlets. I hope you have ready pamphlets. Ask all the ladies here, would they subscribe to such a bag? I mean, I wouldn't subscribe to it because I changed my handbag color with my dress, as many ladies' handbags do. So it doesn't matter what anti-snatch handbag you have.
One handbag.
You know what I mean? Don't you realize you want to change handbag? I mean, with same color, but you know, brown, black.
Actually, it's a device.
Oh, device and handbag.
Oh.
Oh my God, it's so cumbersome. You see, that's my reaction as a woman.
Okay.
Remember, you know, as a woman, try the men with bags. Those women pretenders, yeah, who are carrying bags like women now. Ask them whether they would like to carry that device attached to their bags. No, that jokes aside. But I'm trying to make a point. Make sure you focus on the commercial aspects of this product. It may be very good, But commercially, it may not be acceptable with the way people use the handbags here. Secondly, removal of carpet odor. I suggest that you do your survey together with the people who make carpets. You know, if they can institute this, you know, at the factory itself, that you really can sell in bulk rather than at home. I don't know. They may be already in the market. As I recall, they are already in the market. Products for removal of carpet odors. Yeah, so you see?
His is better.
I don't know. But if it's better, then the price sensitivity must be also looked into, marketability, competition. And so it's not that easy. You can create something. It's like, I'm telling you, somebody that I know who created a very good beauty soap out of goat's milk. And I know goat's milk is very good, very good. But he asked me to help him to market, my agency at that time, my trade. And the most important thing for him was to have this soap wrapped up in white paper and with embossed in silver a picture of a goat, complete with the beard, with the goatee. And he said, I said, why do you have this logo, this chop, you know? Oh, because it's goat's milk. And it's a beauty soap. I said, no woman in this world wants to use your soap and end up looking like this goat. You see? You see how a good intention, good product, straight away gets shut down. And then somebody wanted to have collagen product put in the shelves of Asian countries. And he told me in Singapore, not well received. I said, what does your product look like? Well, on the cover, it has got the picture of a paddy field. Paddy, rice. Why? What's it got to do with collagen? Because it's all natural. I said, in Singapore, they've never seen one grain of rice stalk, you know. So putting rice there, what's got to do with collagen? You see what I mean? Good product, presentation, packaging, all salah. So again, it's not so much innovation here. It's beyond innovation, how to market it. Maybe GE will help you in this case.
Please, one more.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I am a fresh graduate. It's hard for me to find a job. So I go for innovation. I even joined Genovasi Tech, okay, pin here, that's sponsored by the government to be innovative. So the problem is how I'm going to pursue my idea, my project, my prototype to make it commercialized. How government help me?
Don't worry. Don't get help from the government. Dr. Bruno Lamvan will explain how for you.
No, I won't, but I make two remarks. First, I think your example is a very telling example of somebody who has ideas, who is dynamic, who wants to innovate, wants to do something. And what we see is a missing link, that is, you don't know how to do it commercially. One of the explanations is we still don't have, in Asia and in many parts of the world, this dual training, where you would be both a technician and engineer and have the knowledge of what business takes and the commercial dimension. So if you can use this meeting maybe to find a girlfriend who is graduating, fresh graduate from business, that might be the good alliance. But beyond the joke, and I apologize for being so personal, indeed, this is the combination of talents you need to bring together. I would suggest that if you track the people who are equally eager as you are to innovate and have the business training, you are going to be a successful pair. And one sign for me that you are already a successful innovator is that you just managed to get 3 pieces of valuable advice for free. So congratulations.
Thank you.
If I could add one more piece of advice. Bro, dengar bro. Very important, okay? I will just finish this off, okay? Go down to the patent office and patent your technologies, whatever it is. You need to get a patent paper, product. Get a patent paper so that it's yours. Use social media to find potential investors. If you go on social media right now, no, when we started out, we didn't even have handphones. We didn't have Candy Crush. Can you imagine life without Candy Crush? You all know what Candy Crush is, right? Tan Sri, what is your Candy Crush level right now? 400, I think, right? Since you retired from politics, you ada masa kan main. She plays Angry Birds. Are you sure it's not called Angry Politician for you? Okay. So I would actually go online, find out how to write the patent down, go and patent your idea, and then go and use social media. Yeah, use social media. We never had Facebook. Yeah, that's not saying that I'm old. or that we are all old. But use social media. I think you go out there, show people a product, let them test it. If it's already patented, then the IP is protected. Hopefully, if you patented it in Singapore. Just kidding. But thank you very much, and I think it's very brave of you to share that with us. Yes, gentleman next to you.
Hi everybody, I'm Ashraf from Malaysia, Academy of Science Malaysia. So just to let you know, in Malaysia that we have, this is to tackle the gender issues. We have undergraduates, female and male graduates, and enroll in the university around 50-50. But what happened later when they go to master's and PhD level, we see that the female is decreasing. So according to the speaker just now, like Bruno said, that key elements for innovation is, one of them is gender and another one is culture. So I think one of the reasons why the female is not pursuing master's and PhD doctorate is because the culture here in Asia that where female is more, staying at home and whatnot. So I don't know, how do we tackle these issues? And if you see in front of you, there only one female and the other four is male dominating the stage. So I don't know.
Wait, this female has a lot more. We are I think outclassed here.
And if you heard Jason's introductions to the panel, he only mentioned about one iron person, one iron lady. He didn't mention any one of us as an iron man,
Steel man, wood and copper. I think, Dr. Lava, does Europe have this same problem with the gender issue? And how do you tackle it?
Yeah, one thing which is worrying in Europe is that, and we heard it from, again, Goran Persson this morning, so much progress has been made in parliamentary representation, in politics, etc. And it's amazing to see how this progress is not being matched in the business field. We still lack female leaders in business. And there are various reasons for that. There are various types of explanation. There's also a lack of eagerness. That is we're not sure that there is that eagerness from female leaders who have the talent to be leaders to actually want to be leaders. And this is where the obstacles are very often unsaid, but because all the legislation, the regulatory environment is in place, and still it is not enough. So as I often like to mention, innovation is less about brains than it is about minds. So changing the mindset has to start from inside.
Well, I would like to add on to say that innovation, like the marketplace, is and should be gender neutral. I think for as long as we keep demarcating between males and females, and then use that to ascribe innovation or to whatever it is in whatever sphere, we're going to get the same answers like this. There'll be reasons for why people don't want to go to master's, PhD. And again, do not even link innovation with masters or PhDs. That's not it. Innovation starts from people who never even went to college. Got dropped out of college. You know that, the history, I don't have the quote. But they're so creative, because there's talent there inside here, between the two ears, that they're able to think of something so well advanced in terms of their time that, they're thinking ahead. That's innovation. You may have 3 PhDs in all kinds of fields, but you may be the one that's causing problems for this guy who's setting up his second company in France.
INSEAD, head of INSEAD.
Not the guy in France who, you must have on your honor, right?
But I must say that French is the best language in the world, period. But I would ask why. I would say why. Because French is one of the few languages in which the problem is masculine and the solution is feminine.
Yeah, exactly. I did French right up to university level too. And I always wondered why they're always being male or female. But in Sweden now, the latest is that they are doing away with gender identification. They have names that are neutral, starting from school. And they're getting worried. The Swedes are getting worried that there's no more recognition of whether you're a man or a woman.
Stacy could be a guy's name.
And there's a name that they call it. I can recall a three-letter word to denote person.
OMG.
OMG. The problem is that the gender issue, I can have another 3-hour debate. I do this all the time. But it's up to, first of all, the men. do innovate your in thinking, you know. Do not say you women are second class. That is all the men. The glass ceiling is all promoted by men, you know. If we subscribe to glass ceilings, you've fallen for their tricks. And anyway, the ceiling is glass. It's not steel, you know, it's glass. Take a stone and break it.
If you're made of iron.
That's a joke, but I'm just saying, no. There is no such thing as a glass ceiling. It's all perception of the men, of the women themselves. And not all men, all women. Those who have broken these barriers never thought of the glass ceiling. I never thought of any glass ceiling. What ceiling?
There's no ceiling.
There's
On
no
that note,
ceiling.
we do have a ceiling on time because it's time for makan. On that note, I would like to thank all the panelists, Dr. Bruno Lavant, Dr. Togor Hajo, and Tan Sri Frida Aziz, and of course, Mr. Gupta. Thank you very much for your insights. Thank you, the audience. I know we didn't get around to the common currency and all that kind of thing, but Mr. Jason, after you thank all the speakers, please announce. Who called me Mr. Jason? Winners for this session's quiz are Ainul Azrin Ahmad and Muhammad Shafarizal bin Putih. Kenapa tak ada Cina? Huh? Huh? Apa lagi Melayu mau? Huh? Yeah. There's your winners. Please collect your prizes at WIF-KL Secretariat Room, Level 3. Thank you very much. Have a great lunch and a good afternoon.